How many of you have ever seen the movie Mr. Holland's Opus? Any of you? Oh, a few of you. Mr. Holland's Opus is a movie about a high school music teacher who has the dream of someday becoming a composer. But the realities of his life are such that he is very busy in living his life as a teacher, and so he doesn't really have the time to sit and compose this piece of music that keeps roaming and rumbling around in his head. But during the movie, we see that he goes through the routines of life, and in one part, his wife is pregnant. And then toward the end of her pregnancy, as she's beginning to show very greatly that pregnancy, he comes home with a pair of earphones. And he takes the earphones and he plugs them in the stereo, and then he comes over and he puts them around his wife's belly. Brave man. Finally, his wife looks at him and goes, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I read somewhere that babies can even hear while they're in the mother's womb. And so I want our child to have the same love of music that I have or that we have. And so I want to start right now letting him listen to music." And so sure enough, he leaves the headphones on, goes over, cranks up the stereo, and blasts away. And his child gets to hear the music. Well, I've sometimes have wondered what it would be like if I could have had a conversation, or we could have a conversation with that baby. And say what it must have been like, or wonder what it must have been like. Because here we are, here this child is in this wonderful, safe, small, dark, warm womb. This is his world. But all of a sudden, this music starts playing. And one must think or wonder that the child must have said, "I wonder what that is." And how it would have been if we could have said to the child, "Just wait a couple of months. Just wait a couple of months. You're going to be amazed at what you experience. You're going to be born into this world that's just full of light and life and color. You're going to be born into a universe that is infinite and just goes on and on and on. You're going to be born into a world where there's people just like you, parents who can't wait for you to come so that they can hold and snuggle and give their love to you. It's going to be amazing." But the child in this little womb goes, "Yeah, right." And you say, no, it's true. But the child must sit there and go, "But I can't deny the fact that I caught a glimpse. I caught a glimpse that there's something more. I can't just dismiss what I've experienced." It may sound a little silly, but I think it does express that what we think and what we know and what we believe is so often based on simply the experiences that we've had in our lives. Those things that we've known and can confirm that help us to give credence to it. But catching glimpses of God and what life might be like with God has been the thrust of our Lenten sermon series on the 23rd Psalm. What we have seen and what we have heard have given us some insights and some understandings of who God is and the relationship that we might have with God if we turn our lives over to God. But the question now is, maybe more importantly, do we trust them? Do we trust those glimpses enough to live them? Give them a chance. Let them be part of the experience that we call life today. I'd like to share the parts of the psalm that we have reflected on so far over the course of Lent. and do so in the ways that the first early Hebrews may have heard these scriptures. And I think it's on the screen, and so you can hear what I am saying, but also follow how the King James, the beloved King James version that we all know, it is. But they may have heard it in this way. The Lord is my shepherd. What more do I need? He brings me to the comforting pastures of green. He leads me to the waters of rest and relaxation, which renew me and my life. Even when I wander from the ways of God, God will return me to the right direction in my life. Even in my darkest, most hurtful times, I need not fear. To the one who did not count equality with God as something to be held on to, as something to be exploited, but who is willing to empty himself and come and live among us, who is obedient in his life even to the point of death on the cross. But did you hear the affirmations? Did you hear the affirmations? So that we would recognize in him the divinity that was in our midst. Where we catch a glimpse of what it means to live our own image as creations and children of God. To see and understand who God calls us to be and who we might become. The Reverend Dr. William Sloane Coffin said it this way, that when they killed the best among us, they tried to kill the best within us. When they killed the best among us, they tried to kill the best within us. As a United Methodist pastor, beginning in my ministry, I was like most pastors. You get assigned usually to a little church in a small community. And so that indeed followed my progression of churches. And I remember this one church that I was assigned to. Because it was small, we would do a lot of things in conjunction with the Lutheran church in our community, which was also small. And because of that, we built a good relationship. We would do things like weekly Lenten services and other things that we could do together. But because we had done that, we built a friendship amongst the congregations. And one day, because of that closeness, I received a call from a woman in the Lutheran congregation. And she said, would you be willing to ask your congregation to take a special offering? You see, we have a young 8-year-old boy in our congregation, and he has leukemia. And his parents' health care or health insurance has already maxed out. It's already reached its limit. And the medical bills are just piling up and piling up. So would you be willing to take an offering to help them with that cost? And I said, of course we would. We would be honored to be able to participate in doing something like that. And so we did. But word began to spread. And so other congregations also took offerings. And then other groups and community organizations began to hear about it, and they would have fundraisers. And so more and more it became a collective ministry of the whole community that we lived in. And so we would go to all these different events, and we'd see literally just hundreds of people coming to show their support and their care for the family, and especially the little boy. Well, finally it became evident. It became evident that the young boy would not live without a bone marrow transplant. And so again, they tested the family, but there was no matches. So again, the community was asked to help. And the organization that takes the transplants and the testing came. And again, literally hundreds and hundreds of people showed up to be tested. All, I'm sure, hoping and praying that we might be the one that could give this little boy a chance at life. Well, sadly, it was not to be so. And he died from his illness. And collectively, we all just kind of said, why? How could this happen? God, how could you have let this take place? We worked so hard. We tried so hard. Look at what we did to try and help this family. Surely you could have blessed our efforts. And finally, I realized that I kept looking at how we as a community thought we were being a gift or trying to be a gift to the family. And we were, and that was important. But because of that focus, I missed something extremely important. I realized that it was the family and the little boy who had been a gift to all of us. In that illness, in that sickness, and I'm not saying God caused it, please, but in the midst of it, they helped us to see the best of who we could be. They helped us to see the best of what it meant to be community, to be neighbors and friends, to be Christian together. We saw the potential and the possibility of what we could live if we so desired. If we were willing to follow the teachings and the example of Jesus the Christ, which was in our midst. You see, Jesus and his life truly give us glimpses of the eternal. Glimpses of the divine presence that's all around us and also within us. Glimpses of the hope that is ours, that we have indeed already begun the life eternal. May this Easter day resurrect the full meaning of life for us all. May we celebrate the best who was with us, so we may celebrate the best that is within us. Amen.